barriers that you and I encounter to being successful and effective and accomplishing the things we want to accomplish at work. So all of us in the pursuit of whatever we're interested in will occasionally run into barriers or constraints or obstacles which limit our ability to be successful and effective. And I want to have you begin to consider that those barriers are the access to this whole issue of building relationship and getting the results. So I want to look at several different barriers, and the ones that are outlined in the book, in the beginning of the book, and there are additional ones that we can explore. So we're going to look at the barriers, go through the conversations, and then come back to, okay, how do I actually deal with those? What are the strategies for how can I alter the current circumstances to bring about a better relationship that both may generate higher affinity and or higher results depending on what it is you're interested in. So the first barrier that one could think of is lateness. Do any of you ever experience lateness at work? You know, I know you're not late, but there are people who are late, right? Meetings start late. How many of you meetings, they almost never start on time. They're always late. In fact, you can count on them that they're going to be late. So you can even stroll in a little later and know that you haven't missed any, which is kind of the culture of lateness. Some organizations, you know, deadlines are verboten. Can't have deadlines. We don't have deadlines around here. There are several organizations in Columbus that operate on deadlines are not a good thing, which immediately sets up this whole idea of issue of timeliness. The stuff that you personally need to get from other people doesn't arrive in a timely fashion for you. So there's this issue of lateness, cultures of lateness in personal relationships. You may be very punctual in some relationships, but not in other relationships because that relationship doesn't honor timeliness. It doesn't matter if things are on time there. So this becomes one of the barriers if you are under the gun, and you know if you're under the gun with some kind of timeline and stuff isn't there by when you need it, it makes life a lot more unpleasant. And generally we get upset with people. Then there's poor quality work. Poor quality of work in all of its forms. Poor quality in that it was done shoddily. Poor quality in the sense that it was incomplete or has inaccuracies in it, has mistakes in it, you know, typos if it's a written report of any quality. So all the ways in which you think of something that, you know, this is not good, this is not what I need, this is insufficient. So that whole area of work that's not up to the standard expectation or requirement that's necessary for you to be able to continue as if that was normal. So all the issues of poor quality work become a limit to and a barrier to our ability to be successful and effective. Difficult and uncooperative people. Any of you work with difficult or uncooperative people? Are any of you difficult or uncooperative people? Probably not, right? It's generally not us. But difficult and uncooperative can show up in lots of ways. Some people who are difficult are abusive almost in their mannerisms. Uncooperative is people that simply won't go along. And if you were dealing with organization change, for example, we would consider people who are resistant to be uncooperative. Uncooperative shows up in lots of ways. Some people who are continually asking questions and are objecting to things are uncooperative. People who simply won't do things for you become cooperative, uncooperative, and difficult, and you have to figure workarounds, or you have to, you know, find some other way to get it done. So this becomes an issue. Lack of teamwork and support. Lack of teamwork means not only the people that you're working with, but lack of teamwork across organizations. if in some organizations where you're working on multiple projects and there are different project heads associated with those projects, and those project people never talk to each other, so they're making demands on you that are completely inconsistent and contrary with other people. Or managers at different levels in different parts of the organization never talk to each other to coordinate how things are going. So there's, it seems as if we're working at cross purposes. And it occurs as a lack of teamwork. Priorities aren't aligned, goals aren't aligned. You'll hear people say, can't they get their act together, kind of thing. All those issues get at the idea of the lack of teamwork and the lack of support for what you want to accomplish. Workload overwhelm. Any of you have the experience of having more work to do than you have time in which to do it? Seems to be a condition in organizations now that most people do have that experience, that there's simply more to be done than the time in which they can do it. And, what do I do about that? Because it clearly limits my ability to be successful and effective, independent of the impact it has on my stress and my personal well-being and how available I am to work with other people. So this also becomes one of the issues that limits our ability to be effective and successful. Insufficient resources. Insufficient resources. Not enough money, not enough people, not enough time, not enough computer space. Whatever the resource is for you, I don't have enough of it. And I don't see how to get more of it. So it looks like a limitation or a constraint on my ability to be effective and successful. And then finally, poor planning. Planning where people continually change their priorities, or they don't seem to have a plan. So we go in one direction for a while and then we go in another direction, and people can't make up their minds, and well, this was a priority today and now this is a priority tomorrow, which makes it very difficult for anybody to sit down and actually do their work in a competent fashion. So these all become barriers or constraints to work. I'd have you consider the following. All of those are a function of an ineffective working relationship, all of which are a product of communication. So that's the proposition. We're making a rather radical proposition. All those exist as a function of conversation and demonstrate a breakdown in an effective working relationship. Those aren't inherent conditions that we can't do anything about.